folks, let's do it. Welcome to Dangerous Ideas. I'm Lee Camp. We're trying it at a later time. We're going to see how this goes. Who knows? It could just devolve into pantsless madness. I don't know. I don't know what happens at this hour of the day. I'm sorry, folks. But we're just trying it out. Maybe one day a week I'll do a later one for everybody. But anyway, if you like this, if you hate it, let me know, and I'll ignore whichever ones I don't like. So thank you for being here. Important news going on around the world. We're going to dig into it, all the stuff the mainstream media either won't mention or they'll mangle. Either they don't mention or they mangle it. Those are the two options, really, that they have. But thank you for being here. And if you feel like it, throw a couple bucks into the super chat, and I will try and highlight all the super chat comments I can. But anyway, let's do it. Let's do it. So I'm going to get to, kind of the full breakdown. It's been a little less than a month since the U.S.-backed, U.S.-created coup of Bangladesh, and he kind of needed some time to sort things out and figure out where it was all going. But now I'm going to bring you a pretty great play-by-play of how exactly the U.S. couped Bangladesh, and also some leaked documents on who the U.S. might coup next, or very likely might coup next. But before we get to that, let's start off with the fact that Israel has launched a massive invasion in the occupied West Bank. Oh, I thought this was all about getting Hamas. If it's all about getting Hamas, then why is Israel invading the West Bank? Oh, because I think it might not be about getting Hamas. I think it might be about ethnic cleansing. I think it might be about, quote unquote, greater Israel, which is not great. I think it might be about stealing all that land and cleansing the area of those people, and genocide in Gaza and cultural genocide elsewhere. I think that might be what it's about. But they're invading the West Bank because there's no Hamas there, but they're getting Hamas. They gotta go through the West Bank to get the Hamas, even though they're not there. And we're coming up. We're 1 month short, a little more than 1 month short of 1 year of genocide. I don't know about you, but I have already bought my dress for the celebration. It's lovely. It's like a mauve kind of color. I don't know. I just feel like it brings out my eyes. But I hope you have picked your dress for 1 year of U.S.-backed genocide in Gaza. I mean, I never thought we'd get to the point that we'd be talking about a year of genocide, that we'd be talking about, like, it just seemed completely untenable, unfeasible, and utterly horrendous that Israel could do this for a year, and yet we're coming up on that. But the video you're seeing now, if you're not listening to the podcast, if you are listening to the podcast, then I don't know what video you're seeing. Maybe you're watching porn or something, which you do you. But it's kind of weird to listen to the podcast to this while you're doing that. But the video you're seeing, if you're not watching, if you're not listening to the podcast, is of Israel invading the West Bank. Here's also from Al Jazeera. Israel's launched a massive assault on the West Bank. Hundreds of Israeli soldiers are conducting a major assault in the occupied West Bank in Jenin, Tulkarem, and the Farah refugee camp near Tubas. Israeli forces have killed at least 10 Palestinians in what is said to be Israel's largest assault there in 20 years, as they claim they are targeting, quote, armed terrorists who posed a threat to security forces. Really, you can do just about anything you want as long as you claim that there's a terror threat. You can apparently just murder people. You can destroy whole areas. You can steal all the land. You just say, oh, it's a terror threat to allow this farmer to continue to have a farm on land that we want to steal. That's a terror threat, according to Israel. And it is amazing that so far in this invasion of the West Bank, they've killed 10 Palestinians. And this is the normalization of genocide, the normalization of murder, the normalization of these horrific actions by Israel, that you read something like that and you go, oh, it's just 10. Oh, what's the biggie? They just murdered 10 innocent people. So why are we even, this isn't even a news story. They've murdered 40,000 in Gaza. So it's just 10 murders today in West Bank. Why is it even, I don't even know why we're talking about it. We should be talking about the new style of penne pasta that's popular around the hipster folks. Thank you, Pippo Lone. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that right, for the donation over on Rumble. I appreciate it. Everybody, thank you for those of you who support the show. The Palestinian Authority, PA, presidency. I don't know why they needed to. We know what the initials of the Palestinian Authority are. Come on, Al Jazeera. Don't talk down to us. Palestinian Authority presidency condemned Israel's assault and warned it could usher in dire and dangerous results. Since then, Israel has killed at least since October 7th, Israel has killed at least 40,534 people and wounded another 93,778 in Gaza. That likely does not count perhaps even 10,000 people lost under the rubble. It has killed, and it also doesn't count the 200,000 roughly that have been murdered via disease, starvation, thirst, etc. It has killed unclean water. It has killed 662 Palestinians and injured about 5,400 in the West Bank during the same period. So since October 7th, Israel's only killed 662 Palestinians in the West Bank. Only. Somehow they have made it so that we act like 660 people murdered by their armed forces is fine. That's nothing. That's again, I don't know why we're talking about it. That's nothing. So anyway, this is ongoing, obviously, Israel's assault on the West Bank, their genocide in Gaza. Here's from Democracy Now! Every once in a while, Democracy Now! Does some good reporting when they don't have their head up their ass. U.S. has sent over 50,000 tons of arms and military equipment to Israel since the genocide started. And good for Democracy Now!, who has thrown in the towel on so many important issues. They have not given up on calling this a genocide. And I feel like it may sound like I'm delivering that like a joke, but no, I'm serious. Thank you for using the word genocide, Democracy Now! Sometimes my delivery for the sarcasm and my delivery for the non-sarcasm ends up being very similar, and the finger motion is the same. And when that happens, I just need to clarify, no, seriously, thank you for using the word genocide, Democracy Now! Good for you guys for having not balls, because that would be part of the patriarchy, for having the vaginas to actually stand by the word genocide. Because if you look up the dictionary definition of genocide, it is exactly that. Even according to the Holocaust Memorial Fund's dictionary definition of genocide that they have on the Holocaust Memorial Fund website, if you go and read it, at no point during that definition will you go, that's not happening in Gaza. At no point will you think that definition doesn't fit exactly what's happening in Gaza. But yes, the U.S. has sent 50,000 tons of arms and military equipment to blow up children in Gaza. And the Republicans endorse this. Donald Trump says, finish the job, which I guess means finish the genocide. You know, it's funny that they use that expression, finish the job, considering one of the most famous places that finish the job is used is when people are talking about Hitler, when people are talking about the Nazis. So you'd think if you don't want to sound like you're doing the same thing the Nazis did, you wouldn't use the expression finish the job. But here is Trump and many others saying finish the job. Thank you, Nicholas, for the donation. Nicholas says our genocide is just part of the human experience. Yeah, I feel like that's what Israel wants us to believe is that, look, it's part of being a human. It's just sometimes there's genocide. It's better to look at it this way. Israel's not committing genocide. There just are genocides. It's like flowers blooming. They just happen. You just flowers bloom. Genocides happen. That's what Israel wants you to believe. What was I in the middle of saying before all that? That on the Republican side, you have them celebrating this genocide, many of them. On the Democratic side, you have them either celebrating it or saying nothing about it. They wouldn't even let a Palestinian voice be at the Democratic convention. So they're in lockstep on this, absolute lockstep. As these elections continue to be bought, this upcoming November election is completely being bought out. One of the biggest purchasers of our election, AIPAC, and AIPAC has officially surpassed $100 million spent on these elections, and we're still, I'm not good with the months. It's still 2 months out, is that right? We're still roughly 2 months out, so they're clearly, and these months are the ones where they'll probably spend the most money. So they're gonna. They said they were gonna spend $100 million, and they've already surpassed $100 million. So, thank you, Dan, for the donation. Goddamn right. So they're gonna probably end up at $120 million or something. And purchasing this election has worked. We've already seen that it's working, right? They purchased the primary against Jamal Bowman. They purchased the primary against Cori Bush. And now they're on to purchasing other aspects of the election. AIPAC has spent more than $100 million. AIPAC's PAC, that's redundant, has spent $44.8 million at the end of July, according to the FEC, and $42 million given to the campaigns of members of Congress and other candidates, as well as to party groups and leadership PACs, blah, 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 blah. What I'm hearing from this is we don't actually have elections. We have a supermarket that sells candidates to the highest bidder, and that is our election. This is not any kind of democracy at all. But, they still want to pretend it is. Kamala Harris wants to tell you need to choose joy this November. Choose joy. She doesn't have actually anything on her platform, so instead she's just saying, just select joy. I'm not going to tell you anything that I stand for. Just pick joy. That can you say anything that you would do? No, not at all. Just joy, and I'm not Donald Trump. But does it matter if you're not Donald Trump, if you stand for all the same shit as Donald Trump? Does it actually matter? Anyway, that aside, although didn't I have something else? Oh yeah, I'm jumping way ahead here in my rundown, but someone put this video together, and I know Republicans would love this video. It's probably, for all I know, this was put together by Fox News. Hilariously, this exact same video could be put together for Trump supporters, but this one happens to be about Kamala Harris supporters. It's going viral. This is legit people who said they support Kamala Harris, and then they're asked to name something she's accomplished that they're excited that she did.
What is Harris's biggest accomplishment to date as vice president?
I don't know. I don't feel comfortable doing this anymore.
She was a very good vice president.
That's an interesting question. Getting to vice president.
I have to do more research on her, honestly. I'm just glad to see a woman of color in charge for once. That's it.
I haven't followed her political career that closely.
This is a good one. I don't know. Yeah.
I don't want to do that.
What is Harris's biggest?
I like the last one. I don't want to do this. I don't want to be doing this anymore. No, they can't name because she hasn't. Is there anything to name? Unless you want to name. Well, she kept nonviolent prisoners in California who were supposed to be released due to overcrowding. She kept them in prison while she was in California. I think she arrested some mothers because their kids didn't show up to school enough. I'm not kidding. She prosecuted people for having weed. So I guess you can name that. I don't even know what you would name. Some of them said getting to vice president, but she wasn't elected to vice president. In fact, she was losing that primary pretty horribly, and Joe Biden just, I think, realized he needed it would look better to have a person of color on his ballot line. Now, again, the Republicans, and I'm sure plenty of Republicans are showing this video and laughing heartily. They don't want to show you the video of Trump supporters saying the exact same thing. I love Trump. He's great. What did he do for you when he was president? Well, I really liked that that time, you remember, he sat down with North Korea and changed nothing there. He got a giant corporate tax cut for corporations. Excited about that. Anyway, you could do the same video for Trump supporters. Okay, back to, for a moment, before we get to Bangladesh and the likely place that America will coup next, I want to go back to Israel and this ongoing suppression, oppression against anybody that is standing up and speaking out against Israel, against their genocide. But anyway, they're crushing platforms, arresting the CEO of Telegram. They're crushing reporters. They're crushing activists. They're arresting people. They are also going after, of course, the funding of those who stand up for Palestinians, and including Palestinians themselves. This is from The Cradle, which, by the way, The Cradle does excellent reporting on this topic, and they were banned from Facebook and all Meta platforms, Instagram, on the same day with no warning and no ability to appeal, as I was banned from TikTok with no warning and no ability to appeal, and they don't even tell you what you did right or wrong to get banned. Anyway, they're reporting that Binance, which is a crypto platform exclusively for bisexuals, Binance seizes... I'm kidding, but they are a crypto platform. Crypto platform Binance seized Palestinian funds at Israel's request. The crypto exchange platform Binance has seized the accounts of numerous Palestinian users at the request of the Israeli government for allegedly being linked to quote-unquote illicit funds and quote-unquote terrorist organizations. Boy, you can do anything as long as you yell terrorist while you're doing it. Did you know that? You could just go up to like an old lady on the street, punch her in the face, and go, terrorist! And it's fine. It's totally fine. You could do anything. You can go and, like, you see a 3-year-old, you can pick him up by the back of his trousers and just hurl him into a lake and just yell terrorist. It's fine. Totally fine. According to Ray Youssef, co-founder of crypto marketplace Paxful, which is... it's a crypto marketplace for people taking Paxil. Thank you, Kevin, for the donation. Kevin says Trump 40,000 sanctions deaths in Venezuela. Yeah, it's actually well over 40,000 now. The initial report was 40,000 have died from the economic war in Venezuela, but then the UN rapporteur said it was 100,000, but even that was like a year or two ago, so who knows what the number is now, but it's over 100,000 people have been murdered in Venezuela due to our economic sanctions on them. But anyway, going back to this crypto marketplace Paxful, Binance has refused to return the funds. All appeals have been denied. All Palestinians are affected, and judging by the way things are going, all Lebanese and Syrians will get the same treatment. Not your keys, not your coins, Yusuf added. And he's referencing the fact that many Palestinians that are in refugee camps in Gaza or the West Bank, some of them, the families, still hold on to the keys to the houses that they were kicked out of by Israel when Israel's apartheid state first stole their land. So they literally still have the key to the house that they lived in when they were told they could no longer live there and they needed to flee for their lives. Anyway, here's another quote from Coin Telegraph Reports saying Palestine is a minor market for Binance, with Palestine's traffic share amounting to roughly 0.05% of Binance's visits over the past year. So, as long as it's a small percentage of your business, you can just steal their money. Isn't that exciting? As long as it's not too many people, you can just steal their shit. And it's totally true. Like, for example, if you only steal bikes that are painted with unicorns on the side, like little pink unicorns, then it's okay to steal those bikes because those are actually 0.05% of all bikes that are out there are unicorn bikes. So fine to steal as long as it's not a huge percentage of the overall market. But yeah, so I think to sum this up, fuck Binance. And this is also many of you who probably are Bitcoin connoisseurs out there. Those of you who study the Bitcoins, you know that your Bitcoins are never truly safe unless they're in what's called cold storage, which means you've taken them off of these platforms like Coinbase and Binance and all these others. By the way, Binance is a OnlyFans page that I very much spend a lot of time on. That's different than Binance, though. But yeah, you can't. If you have them on these platforms, such as Binance or Coinbase or any of them, they can always be stolen from you, as they are being as it's happening here, but also as was done to certain some of the funds that WikiLeaks had were stolen, by PayPal and others. I think maybe even Mint Press, where I used to work. I know their PayPal was shut down, and I think when they shut down Mint Press's PayPal, they also stole like a certain amount of the funds that were sitting there that hadn't been withdrawn yet. So, we're closing your PayPal because we've decided you're a terrorist organization. You say terrorist stuff like Israel's committing genocide. You say terrorist stuff like Julian Assange is a goddamn hero. Yeah, you stop with your terrorist stuff. Speaking of this ongoing pursuit to crush all of us who are speaking out, here's yet another person. So I brought to you the other day that Richard Medhurst, the journalist, was arrested in the UK where he lives most of the time. And he was arrested for 24 hours under anti-terror laws because of the things he has said they're calling terrorism, as he reports on Israel. Well, this has happened again to a well-known pro-Palestine activist, human rights activist named Sarah Wilkinson. She was arrested today when 12 officers arrived at her home in the UK. And again, she's being arrested under a terrorism clause that basically says you cannot speak out against, and I'm paraphrasing in a way they would not like me to, but you cannot speak out against the allies of Britain or else you are supporting terrorists. And if you support terrorists, then we can arrest you for terrorism. And anyway, so this is the same thing as was done to Richard Medhurst. Now they're doing it to activists outside of just journalists. And she is now free on bail or free for the moment, pending the charges. But it does not mean that she doesn't have this hanging over her head, that she could be locked up for years and years for things she said. And she didn't say, you know, go execute a lot of people. She said things like Palestinians have a right to resist and that type of thing. Anyway, let's hope that all this horrific fascist nonsense gets dropped, gets thrown out as it goes through the courts. Of course, in the U.S., we have this pretend idea of freedom of speech. Now, we don't really have freedom of speech because, you know, I mean, you go back years and years. Eugene Debs was in prison running for president because he came out against World War I. Lenny Bruce, a comedian, was arrested countless times and hounded to his death. He ultimately OD'd, but he was chased and his ability to make money was destroyed and his life was upended and he was facing many charges for things he said, that mainly the things he said that were against the church and against the police. So the idea that we have freedom of speech, of course, is laughable. However, in the UK, they don't even have the idea of freedom of speech. There's nothing in their laws that really says they have freedom of speech. So in the UK, they don't even have to pretend. In the US, we got to pretend. In the US, we are the kings and queens of pretending that we have all these rights. Whereas in the UK, they don't even pretend. So anyway, let's hope that she remains free, Sarah Wilkinson, and you know, you can try and keep up with her story and find ways to support her, because you know this is the famous quote, right? First they came for the fill in the blank, and I didn't speak out because I'm not filling the blank, right? Famous quote. First they came for the communists, and I didn't speak up because I wasn't a communist. And they came for the people with red hair, and I didn't speak up because I didn't have red hair. And then they came for, you get the point. It's honestly, the quote's too long. Really, it just needs to be one sentence. But yeah. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak up for me. Well, they're coming after the journalists. They're coming after the publishers. They're coming after the activists. People like Wilkinson there. And so, does anybody want to speak up? Or no, you just say, it's not me. Here's Richard Medhurst. I interviewed him the other day. Feel free to check that out after this show if you feel like it. Richard Medhurst posted, Britain is under attack. Today, the police launched raids across the country and charged activists who oppose Israel's genocide in Gaza. This is an absolute outrage, a scandal. Why are we being treated like this in our own country? Fascism to protect Zionism. And good for Richard Medhurst continuing to speak up as loudly as possible, despite the fact that he's got these charges hanging over his head right now. And this is, you know, isn't it nice, though, that this is being done in the UK with a liberal prime minister? Doesn't that make it just feel so much better? Isn't that just so warm and cuddly that this fascism is being done under the liberal prime minister? This isn't even the Boris Johnson. This isn't even the Liz Truss. This isn't even the Sunak. This is Keir Starmer. Although he sounds more like a Sith Lord than any of the others, so maybe it's not a surprise. Thank you, Peter, for the donation. Yes. But yes, it's pretty horrible what's going on. And of course, there's stuff going on in the U.S. as well, such as the raiding of Scott Ritter's home, stealing all of his devices, and he may have charges against him. There are other examples that are going on in the U.S. as well. And then, of course, there's the arrest of the Telegram CEO, which apparently also has to do with Israel because he refused to censor Telegram channels that were commenting on Israel, etc. So, and by the way, the update on that is they have brought charges against him. So it's not like he was arrested and then they said, oh, we got it wrong. They have now brought a bunch of charges against him. So while we're on the topic of Israel, by the way, everyone, please don't forget to click thumbs up and click share and all those things. They really do make a difference. If you can just post this on your Facebook, I think Facebook is still a thing. Is it still a thing? Is there still a if you can just put this up on your MySpace or your Friendster, if you can just put this up on your Foursquare or your if you can please just throw this up on your christianmingle.com. If you could just take 1 second to put this up on your Farmers Only page, that would make a big difference. So please do that. Thank you, Christopher, for the donation, for keeping this show going. Hannah says she's putting it up on her MySpace. Yes, Hannah. Do it. Rockin'. It really does make a difference. So, but sticking on the topic of Israel. And by the way, folks, at the end of this hour, I have a brand new comedy segment I'm bringing for members only. So, become a member at leecamp.net. That's my locals page. But while we stick on the topic of Israel for a moment, before we get to Bangladesh, I'm getting there. It's happening. It's happening. In fact, it's happening in like 1 second. I know sometimes there are tangents, okay, but the tangents are all important. So stop looking at me that way. I can tell you're doing it. You're doing it. So you probably were following over the many months the whole Israel claims there was Hamas mass rape on October 7th. Meanwhile, if you actually follow the stuff that's been coming out about it, there is actually zero evidence of mass rape. Like literally zero. Like everything's falling apart. Even the New York Times, they put out an expose where they claimed mass rape, and then they yanked a podcast episode that they were going to do on that story because they realized it was all falling apart and they didn't actually have any evidence. Anyway, I brought you all that before, but here's a little update from Aaron Mate. He's one of the ones that have been doing the best on covering this. He says, Israel and their media political allies claim there was mass rape by Hamas on October 7th. But nearly 1 year later, they have yet to provide a single identified victim, dead or alive, a single shred of physical or forensic evidence, or a single piece of visual evidence. And keep in mind, October 7th was filmed by many different people, many different angles. There was CCTV. There was people holding phones. There's tons of footage of October 7th. There is zero evidence of rape. But now, this is also insane because it's like Israel could stick to what actually happened October 7th and get loads of sympathy. But that's not enough. They want the rape sympathy. So it really is insane. But anyway, here's Aaron's update. He says, Israel's Channel 13 confirms that the anonymous Israeli who witnessed Hamas rape on October 7th and then committed suicide is a complete fake. So this is another one of these, there's evidence of this, blah, blah, blah. And then ultimately, when you actually dig in, it doesn't actually exist. A story that ran in recent days about a Nova music festivals where the most people died on October 7th. Many of them were killed by the IDF, as we know. But anyway, a story that ran in recent days about a Nova survivor who saw horrors and committed suicide did not leave a single dry eye. After trying to reach the family to tell their story, the search turned into an investigation. We will reveal tonight on the tube that it is a complete fake. It is not clear what brings people to invent like this, but to cheapen the real plight of survivors and to play with the souls of others is simply disgusting. And that's coming from an Israeli outlet. That's not Al Jazeera or a Palestinian network. That's an Israeli outlet saying, we wanted to bring you this real thing that happened, and because we actually still have these little journalistic standards here and there, even though we're doing propaganda for Israel, we unfortunately have to reveal to you this doesn't actually exist. And we're seeing this type of thing again and again. Anyway, I wanted to bring you that update. Okay, let's get to a rundown of what happened with Bangladesh, one of the latest U.S.-backed, U.S.-created coups that have happened. in recent months. And there's a pretty great rundown of the whole timeline and everything in the Duran. Ever since 1984, after the CIA had become too well known for setting up coups, America's coup machine has been the National Endowment for Democracy, NED. The longtime fans of my show know that you've heard about NED before. NED is a CIA cutout. And in fact, when NED was first created, one of the heads of NED said that we do what the CIA used to do, and it looked bad. So now they created us. So it's a fake non-CIA organization that's actually just CIA. This doesn't mean there aren't workers in the lower levels of the NED that don't understand what they're really part of. And so you actually saw some of them at NED and USAID quitting because of the genocide in Gaza, because they didn't understand actually what they had signed up to be a part of. Anyway, the U.S. coup that seized control over Bangladesh in August this year is a typical example. The U.S. regime wanted to place an Air Force base on a particular Bangladeshi island because the location for such a base would endanger China's national security and weaken China's ability to protect itself from U.S. invasion. So the U.S. very much wanted an Air Force base on a Bangladeshi island that would harm China. The U.S. is working very hard, I've covered this part before, to encircle China, to cut off trade routes, to make life and operation difficult for China, because the U.S. is trying to maintain hegemony, maintain global control, and part of that is to surround China with these military bases. And you know, like they've done with Iran, like they did with Russia using NATO. And many of the U.S. ruling elite are hoping that doing so will ultimately create a proxy war with Taiwan, etc. Anyway, without naming any country, Hasina, this is the form. So at the time, this is before the coup, the prime minister was Sheikh Hasina, and she's 76. She's 76 years old, and she said that she was offered a hassle-free re-election in the January 7th polls if she allowed a foreign country to build an air base inside Bangladeshi territory. So she has stated clearly that she was basically told, she doesn't use the name of the U.S., but it's the U.S., that if she allowed the U.S. to have a Air Force base on this Bangladeshi island, then she would have no problems with her reelection. But she didn't allow it. Hasina, ruling the strategically located South Asian nation since 2009, secured a fifth overall term in the one-sided election in January, which was boycotted by the main opposition, led by former Prime Minister Khalida Zia. If I allowed a certain country to build an airbase, same quote again, basically. This U.S. coup culminated on August 4th, 2024, when the democratically elected Prime Minister of Bangladesh resigned and was flown out from a Bangladesh Air Force base into neighboring India aboard a Bangladesh Air Force Lockheed Martin. It's good to have Lockheed Martin there helping out. They just here to help. Hey, we're just here to help. We're just here to help you fly to India so we can put in a different ruler so we can have our Air Force base, okay? We're just here to help, okay? Just everybody relax. We just want to kidnap you and dump you in India, okay? So everybody relax. Take a step back, do a breathing exercise, centering exercise, and then let us kidnap you. Lockheed Martin military transport plane headed to the UK, which government informed her in flight that her asylum request in the UK had been denied. So she relocated to India. On August 5th, India's Express News headlined, "Meet General Wakar Uz Zaman, the man in charge of Bangladesh after Hasina's resignation." The general, the chief of army staff, stepped forward to announce the formation of an interim government. The U.S. loves that step. You'll notice that in many U.S. coups is remove the leader, put in some strongman interim person, some general or something that basically says, I have a lot of guns that'll do whatever I want. So I got the guns, so you shut up. And then we're going to have elections. Then we're going to have democracy. Don't you love that? We've kidnapped your leader. We've flown them to another continent. It's not another continent, it's good, but we've flown them to another country. And we're going to put in a military, basically interim dictator. And then you're going to have democracy. Yay. The normal procedure for a U.S. coup is to appoint someone as a caretaker government until a legitimate, quote unquote, head of state who is heavily dependent upon the U.S. government can be installed. Legitimate. We've couped your country. We've kidnapped your leader. We've dumped them in an undisclosed locations, possibly pieces of them here and pieces of them over there. It depends on how we're feeling that day. Who knows? If we didn't get our coffee, it's going to be, we've deposited him in 3 different countries. But we've kidnapped your leader. They're gone. We put in someone else, and now we're going to create a legitimate government. It's like the mob going up and being like, hey, we're gonna create a legitimate business for you. Just give us half your money, and we won't break your knee. You break your knees, and then you have a legitimate business. Muhammad Yunus, just sworn in as head of Bangladesh government following U.S.-backed regime change, had begged the U.S. to aid in changing Bangladesh's laws on his behalf in 2009. This is the new U.S. puppet that's been put in to run Bangladesh. In 2009, according to U.S. diplomatic cables leaked by, can you guess? WikiLeaks. Back when WikiLeaks was telling us what our government does. Yunus was in regular contact with the U.S. government through the U.S. Embassy, as well as trips to Washington, D.C. In 2009, he asked the U.S. to pressure Prime Minister Hasina to reverse a law giving the government control over choosing the chair of his bank. Yunus was a U.S. State Department Fulbright scholar, received the U.S. Presidential Medal of Freeman. U.S. Presidential Medal of Morgan Freeman. I don't know if you know about that one. Medal of Freedom, and a Congressional Medal, as well as having signed at least one letter circulated by the National Endowment for Democracy, NED. Oh, Ned! You end up with NED being involved in so much, you end up sounding like Homer Simpson. Ned Flanders. Former Bangladeshi Prime Minister Hasina, now in India, accused the U.S. of orchestrating her ousting over disputes regarding St. Martin Island, which she claimed was to assert control over the Bay of Bengal. Back in December 2023, so this past December, Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova suddenly said at a press briefing that if Prime Minister Hasina comes to power in the next election, America will use all its powers to overthrow her government. Did you catch that? The foreign minister of Russia knew this was going to happen last December. And sure enough, it happened in August. So for the people that actually had the inside track, they saw the writing on the wall that this was going to happen in Bangladesh. Ben Norton also did a video exposing U.S. government role in Bangladesh, regime change, demonstrating how important for the U.S. regime it is to capture St. Martin Island, especially for choking off the supply of oil from Arab nations to China, which is the world's largest oil importer. So the U.S. is trying to get in the way of basically China's energy sources. And that's why they wanted that Air Force base there. Apparently 900 military bases around the world, not enough. Not enough. We're still creating coups, cooing countries around the world in order to put in more military bases. 900, not enough. When will it be enough? Come on, America. When will it be enough? God damn it. Okay, now are you excited to hear who we will coup next? Does anybody want to take some bets? Now, I know some of you may say, like Venezuela, this is exempting the ones that we're already trying to do every single day. There's not a day that goes by that we don't try to coup Venezuela and Iran and plenty of others. But here's, outside of those, here's the next one that the U.S. is working on. Coming to you from Mint Press and Kit Clarenberg. By the way, Kit Clarenberg also arrested at Heathrow Airport. He was held for only 5 hours as they stole all his devices and everything because they don't like reporters. That's what Britain is now. They don't like when people report things. Neither does the U.S. So here's from Mint Press, Kit Clarenberg. A leaked document shows a CIA front is preparing a color revolution in, drumroll please, Indonesia. Documents passed anonymously to Mint Press News. For some reason, I always want to read anonymously as unanimously, which it'd be really weird if someone leaks documents unanimously to Mint Press News. Everybody in the world just leaked these documents to us at the same time. It was all done unanimously. Everybody in the world just really wants to get these documents to us. Anonymously to Mint Press News revealed that the National Endowment for Democracy, there they are again, our good friends Ned. Oh, our good friends Ned, he's just always around. Have you noticed Ned's always around? Just every time some shit's going down, you're like, why is Ned standing in the corner of the room over there? Why is every time you walk in and you go, this is why am I ankle deep in blood puddle? And there's Ned standing over there. Why is that? And then he gives you a little awkward wave, like, what funny seeing you here. Hey. National Endowment for Democracy is laying the foundations for a color revolution in Indonesia. Most of you know the term color revolution. It means a U.S.-backed fake revolution. I mean, it doesn't mean that there aren't genuine supporters of it. There are often genuine supporters of color revolutions because guess what? There are people in just about every country that are upset with their government for one reason or another. Some of them believe propaganda. Some of them just have genuine grievances with their government. But the U.S. then goes in and helps foment a partially fake revolution. They fund things, they give them advice, advisory roles, etc., in order to try and coup a government. In February 2024, and speaking of, because I said I have my mauve dress ready to go. Has there ever been a mauve color revolution? I feel like that one would do really well. Because I know there's been orange and there's been green and there's been yellow. And so we've had many, but I don't know if anyone's done the mauve. I don't know. What about like a off-white color revolution? Could you have that one? Like if there was like an eggshell, is that not extreme enough? The eggshell revolution? Is that? I don't know. In February 2024, citizens will elect their president. That must be a typo. I think they mean 2025. Because otherwise, a lot of this doesn't make sense. In February 2025, citizens will elect their president, vice president, and both legislative chambers in Indonesia. Current Maverick leader, Yoko, I don't know. Is it pronounced? I don't know Indonesian. Is it pronounced Joko or Yoko? Widodo, widely beloved by Indonesians, is ineligible for a third term, and the NED is preparing to seize power in the wake of his departure. This operation is conducted despite the leaks indicating Jakarta's foremost intelligence agency has expressly warned U.S. officials to stay out of it. But the organization's own reckoning, NED's own reckoning, by its own reckoning, meaning the NED has said it operates in over 100 countries and disperses in excess of 2,000 grants per year. This is paying people to create coups. In Indonesia, these sums have helped extend the endowment's tendrils into various NGOs, civil society groups, and most crucially, political parties and candidates across the ideological spectrum. Well, across the ideological spectrum, except always somehow facilitating U.S. empire. So, not everywhere on the ideological spectrum. A veritable army of NED operatives on the ground is also primed to the challenge, if not don't support U.S. empire, the ones that don't support having their country, Indonesia, or insert other country here, have their own country gutted, extracted, sold, MFers, that type of thing. Personal grants, in other words, bribes from the endowment, have already secretly been distributed to Indonesians for staging the anti-government protests. So this is all being put into place right now for upcoming elections. Widodo, popularly known as Jokowi, is something of a rock star, the first Indonesian leader not drawn from the country's established political or military elite since its hard-won independence in 1949. He was born and raised in a riverside slum in Surakarta. From there, he fought to become mayor of his hometown in 2005, then governor of Jakarta in 2012, then president 2 years later. One might think burnishing the country's finances to such a degree that they've been doing a lot better economically, through sheer force of personality would make him an ideal leader from Washington's perspective. Yet, the president has also prioritized protecting Indonesia's sovereignty. Oh, that's no good. That is no good. Listen, if you want to continue to, if you prefer having your head on your shoulders, then if you're a leader of another country, you should not speak up for the sovereignty of your country. Because sovereignty means independence, and independence means you don't want to be a marionette puppet for the U.S. empire. And not being a marionette puppet for the U.S. empire, it's often bad for your health. It's often bad for the connection between the neck-shoulder region if you don't support, if you support sovereignty. And he's often spoken out for Indonesia's sovereignty and limiting overseas influence in Jakarta. Moreover, he pursues an intensely independent foreign policy, much to the U.S. empire's chagrin. Widodo has encouraged leaders of Muslim states to reconcile and pushed for, no good. Push for Palestinian independence. Oh, God, this guy does not like his head-shoulder connection. His foreign minister visits Palestine but refuses to establish diplomatic relations with Israel. He has also distributed sizable aid to oppressed Muslims abroad. Most egregiously, since Russia's invasion of Ukraine, he flew to both countries, Ukraine and Russia, and urged their leaders to, this is no good. Widodo! Jesus, man, what are you doing? He flew to both countries and urged them to, I don't know if I can say it. Urge them to seek peace. What are you thinking? The fuck is the matter with you? Jesus, man, seek peace? So bad for your health. When Jakarta hosted the G20 summit that year, he invited not only Zelensky, but Putin to attend, despite fierce Western criticism. Oh my God, he invited both leaders of both sides, which is the only way to have a peace deal or any kind of negotiation would be to have both sides there. Oh God, what are you thinking? In many ways, Widodo emulates the rule of Sukarno, Indonesia's first president from 1945 to 1967. His policies domestically and internationally were explicitly anti-imperialist. Do you think it ended well for him? Do you think being anti-imperialist went well in 1967? At home, he prevented Western exploitation of his country's vast resource wealth while maintaining cordial relations with both East and West and personally championing the non-aligned movement, members of which eschewed both power blocks to pursue an independent path. Sukarno's bold refusal to bow to imperial interests made him a thoroughly marked man. In 1965, he was ousted in a blood-spattered military coup sponsored by the CIA and MI6, ushering in 30 years of an iron-fisted military dictatorship led by General Suharto. Over 1 million people were killed through politically motivated massacres, executions, arbitrary imprisonment, and savage repression. Even the CIA describes his purge of leftists as, quote, one of the worst mass murders of the 20th century. But the leaked documents obtained by Minpress News make clear the U.S. empire is preparing to pull off another coup in Jakarta under the aegis of democracy promotion. Democracy promotion. We're just here to promote democracy. We're going to have democracy. Okay, few more stories, and then I'm going to bring the special segment for those of you who are members over at leecamp.net, my locals page. But I wanted to, so I jumped the gun earlier and I showed you that video of people supporting. I don't know why my internet cut off like that, but supporting Kamala Harris, even though they can't come up with anything she's ever done. And it's probably a good thing they don't know things she's done, because if they knew things she's done, it's actually worse than not knowing the thing, because the things she's done are. Ugh. But again, apparently I am really not saying things that are allowed right now because my connection keeps cutting off. But okay. To go back to that topic for just a moment, the DNC and everything. Please, everyone, by the way, click thumbs up, throw in a super chat. Why not? But here's my buddy, Adam McKay. Adam McKay's really he's been doing great recently. He's not giving in to the bullshit of the Democratic Party. He's not giving in to this is the most important election of your lifetime. Oh, apparently they're all the most important election of our lifetime. Adam McKay said, and I also did not know this, but I didn't pay much attention to what went on at the DNC, honestly. But Adam McKay said, I still can't get over the Democratic Party removing opposition to torture from their platform. And most people don't know or care. They removed opposition to torture from their what? Because here's the thing. I get they're pieces of shit. I get they're parasites. I get they're just horrific, soulless human beings. I get all that. But don't you want to pretend that you give shit that you, God. Don't you want to pretend that you don't want torture? That you want to follow international law? Don't you want to pretend? Pretend. But they literally just removed it from their platform. Now, I've mentioned before, the platform doesn't actually mean anything, but to remove it from the platform, that means something. That's a choice right there. They removed that. They also removed opposition to the death penalty. So yet again, you have the Democrats trying to join the Republican Party. I mean, they're just proudly saying we're the same as the Republicans. They just keep doing it more and more. They also removed opposition to the death penalty. I'm not going to do a 45-minute rant on this, but the death penalty is insane on all levels. Okay? The death penalty in the United States, we execute innocent people all the time. It doesn't save us any money. It doesn't dissuade people from committing crimes. There is no evidence that anyone has avoided doing something because the death penalty is still around. There's absolutely no justification for the death penalty. And anyone who says, well, yeah, but what about an eye for an eye? Well, okay, except that that's not. What is with this internet? It is sucking it. Sucking it right now. But what I was going to say is that people go, what about an eye for an eye? And it's like, well, that's not how our legal system works. We don't do an eye for anything. If someone burns down your house, you don't get the right to burn down their house. The court doesn't sentence them to have their house burned down. We don't even do an eye for an eye if someone steals your eye. Like, you'd think if there was one time where we'd have eye for an eye on the books, it'd be in the case of eye theft. But nope. If someone takes your eye, you can't go to court and they go, okay, you get to take his eye. That's not a thing. So if you think eye for an eye, you're an idiot. Not to mention, there's a lot of families of people who've been murdered who say, hey, I don't want the murderer of my family member to be executed because then I'm the same as them. I've just murdered them. There are plenty of families out there of people who've been murdered who do not want that person executed. But, of course, that's if the person's actually guilty, which in Florida, it's 1 out of every 3. 1 out of every 3 people on death row is ultimately found to not actually be guilty. Dude, what is with this internet right now? It's just sucking ass. All right, let me play one more clip, and then I'm going to go to the special extra segment. For those of you who remembers at leecamp.net. This is Chris Cuomo, who his clip is kind of amazing because Chris Cuomo spent years and years being like the face of CNN, right? He's also a part of the Cuomo oligarchy, which governors of New York State, both his father, I think, and both his brother and his father have been governor of New York State. And so he's the ruling elite. He's part of the ruling elite. And then he was the face of CNN for years and years. So he was the spokesperson for the U.S. propaganda, American empire, all of it for years and years. Now he was ultimately fired from CNN. I think largely for trying to help his brother avoid sexual harassment or some other kind of harassment charges. I mean, not charges, but accusations. And I think that's what he got fired for. He did do that, but I don't know whether that's what he got fired for. So he gets fired from the mainstream media, and now he's on News Nation, which is, some much smaller outlet. And now all of a sudden, the guy who was the face of this shitstorm for years and years is on the other side saying, look at the ruling elite. And you'll notice in this clip that he's saying a lot of important things, and all of them are true, or almost all of them are true. But he's also the face of what he's describing. Anyway, let's listen to some of this.
The DNC is that they're going to go after corporate gouging.
For those of you listening to the podcast, he is saying this from inside the DNC. So he's saying the DNC says they're going to go after corporate gouging.
The DNC is that they're going to go after corporate gouging. And they're going to go after corporations, whether it's in taxes, largesse, loopholes. The RNC, we heard the same thing. They're going after the elites, the 2 sets of rules. Let me reveal a reality to you that has to be spoken to here, okay? These are the soldiers.
He is the elite, by the way. He's also benefited from 2 sets of rules. But let's keep going.
These are the men and the women that go back to their constituencies and their communities, and they fight. They take time from their jobs, they take time from their families. Republicans and Democrats alike, that's what they do. They need to charge these people up. They need to be able to get them on board. But there's another reality that is literally...
So part of that's bullshit. I'm not saying everybody. I mean, a lot of those people are average people that are at these conventions. Now, they've fallen for the Democratic propaganda, so that's kind of sad. But a lot of the people on the convention floor are not... These are not necessarily wealthy people. A lot of them are fairly average people across the country that have fallen for Democratic propaganda, whatever. But so he's mainly right. These are largely good people. But then he said, but there's another reality.
But there's another reality that is literally looking down on them. Greg, look at the ring of sweets, okay? This is not unique to Democrats. There is a game of money. When people talk about uniparty, we are strangled by the money reality in our politics. Those suites start at 500 grand. You think there's like a teacher group up in there? You think it's like the Cub Scouts of Columbia County, South Carolina, that's up in those boxes? Some of them are lobbies and good things. The media boxes, you think they're free?
I love how he keeps, even though he's saying something that's important here, he keeps equivocating in various ways that are bullshit. Some of them are lobbyists and good things. No, there's no good lobbyists. I mean, not the ones paying $1 million for a suite. I'll keep playing in a second, but what he also fails to say is that he's talking about how much money they spend for these suites, but what that gives them is this is how they control things in the party. They buy these suites, which who cares if they're okay, it's a little nicer or what? It's got a couch. Who gives a shit? Like, it doesn't really matter. But the point is, by buying it for $500,000, $1 million, they're giving that money to the DNC. The DNC knows who, let's say Citibank pays, $1 million, several million for those boxes. Let's say Citibank pays $1 million, and they get a lot of sway in the party. They control the party. So that's what he's kind of leaving out a little bit. But
why do you think I'm on the floor? News Nation is not a broke company. Nexstar is a massive organization. We are corporate media. We don't have one of those boxes because that's the game.
This was a guy who was corporate media for a decade or more. He's like, I'm with News Nation. We're one of the little guys. Oh, go fuck yourself, Cuomo.
You pay to play. Those boxes are filled with the same people that they say they're going to regulate. They are literally looking down on the faithful and being told, yeah, we're going to break down on them. We're going to make them pay their share. They paid 500, 700, $1 million, $1.5 million to have those seats. They get hotel suites that are probably gifted to the party. And the same thing is true with the Republican side. And they're going to take them down. They're going to change how it is. They are looking down from on high.
Look, I largely love the speech. I think it's all accurate. It's all good, except he was the face of this for a decade. Man, the internet connection just keeps getting worse and worse. Maybe this is why I should not do the live stream at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. I don't know if this is because so many people are live streaming right now or what. But anyway, okay, so for most of you, that wraps up the show. I'm now going to do a special comedy segment for those of you who are members over at leecamp.net, my locals page. I hope you will head over there and become a member. It's a whopping 38 cents an episode, and you get my ebooks, you get my latest comedy special, you get so much stuff if you join up at leecamp.net. So I hope you will support the show over there. I will see you tomorrow. I'm going to do it at the normal time, I believe, tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. So, yeah, I will see you tomorrow. And for everybody over at Locals, hang in there. Don't leave because I'm about to give you a special segment. But just give me 1 minute to fix everything, and I will see everyone at Locals in just a second. To everyone else, thanks, and keep fighting.